Most people enter the crypto space thinking they'll get rich overnight. And that's why most people leave this space broke and with nothing left. The ones who actually make it, they know that they have to move differently. But how do you actually create long-term wealth in crypto? That's what we'll cover in today's video, so stay tuned.
Meme away, we're escaping the matrix. Meme away, we're escaping the matrix.
GM, welcome back to my channel. If you've been watching my last videos, you know we don't do hype here. We don't do fairy tales. We do strategy, and we stick to the truth, and we just follow the path. Today I'm going to talk to you on how exactly wealth is built in crypto on the long term. It is the first part of a 3-part video series where we'll cover all the 3 things that we've talked about in the second video. So crypto spot investing, perpetual futures trading, and DeFi. This is the first video, so today we'll be talking about crypto spot investing. The crypto investor versus the crypto gambler. There are 2 personalities in crypto. There's the gambler and there's the investor. Now, the gambler, he's chasing pumps, he's looking to time the market, he's trying to get in here and there, and oh, he's seen this coin on TikTok yesterday, so certainly it must blossom soon and it must go to 1,000, and then he read this on Twitter and this on Facebook, and well, he has 1 billion coins and all of them go to 0. He usually makes 1 or 2 good moves that make him a significant amount of money, but usually he's also the first one to lose it all in the next big pump and dump scheme. What about the investor? Well, the investor, he blends out the noise. He doesn't listen to all this social media. He uses social media smartly to find new projects, to invest into solid projects that have a foundation, that have value, and that will grow over time. Because he knows time in the market is better than timing the market. The investor, he also understands market cycles, and he really plays the long game. He knows that there will be spikes, there will be dumps, but he doesn't get affected by that. He sticks to his plan and to his strategy, and that's how he wins. Key difference between them is the investor always wins, and the gambler, well, he might win, and honestly there's enough examples of people that have won by gambling and putting everything on meme coins. But do you want to have 1% chance of making it? Or do you want to be someone that is amongst the people that in history have always made it? The investors, the long-term players. Well, if you want to be one of these people and you have patience and you have time and you have good emotional control, then welcome to the investors, welcome to crypto spot investing. Let me start off right with an example. Imagine if you had bought Solana at $9 and you had held until the latest bull markets, the latest spikes of up to $290, you would be up a ridiculous amount of percents, thousands of thousands. If, however, on the other hand, you would have, during all this time, jumped from coin to coin trying to find the next Solana, you would probably be down money. Or if you tried to time the market, time the Solana market even. There's a serious amount of people that can do that, but it requires a lot of technical knowledge, it requires a lot of psychological knowledge, and it requires a lot of emotional control. Most people are not cut out to be traders. So, most people would be down serious amounts of money, while the investor is just up thousands and thousands of percent. So let's first off talk about the 3 pillars of wealth in crypto. First off, we have accumulation. So you need to buy assets that appreciate over time, increase their value. You don't want to buy meme coins and hope that some celebrity posts about that meme coin in a month's time or so, and it ends up going to 0 after all. You want to hold assets that have a value, that have intrinsic value, where the project is solid and where you can see, I can see use cases for that in the future. You can't see a use case for fucking WIF. Now that being said, I was a WIF holder myself. I've made some money with WIF. I've lost some money with WIF, but I think you get what I'm saying, right? There's no value to this. There's no use case for WIF. You will never go to Starbucks and say, hey, can I get a coffee for my 1 million WIF? You're not gonna do that. So you have to find projects like Solana, like Ethereum, like Sui, that generally have value in them, where you can say, okay, well, their blockchain technology is good, we can use that, right? Because these tend to perform best. The cash flow game. Making your crypto work for you. You need to make your money work for you. Just holding crypto, while it can and probably will appreciate over the long game, just is not the full game. By staking, by yield farming, by borrowing and lending your crypto, you can significantly increase the amount that you're making with your spot backs. And as a last pillar, there's risk management. You know, opportunities in the market are endless. They will always come back. There will always be another opportunity. But your capital is finite. Once you're out of capital, you're done, you're out of the game. It's game over. So that's the last thing that should happen. You should never run out of capital. That's why I'm saying, for everyone that knows that his emotional control may not be so good, or, well, his technical analysis is not great, don't do leverage. Leverage has the possibility to completely get you wiped out of the markets. If you buy spot and you hold spot and that's how you make your money, sure, your coin could go to zero, but there's very rare cases in which that happens, and then you are probably also diversified, a step we'll get to later in the video, so stay tuned. But you will probably, in leverage trading, at one point lose a significant amount of money that will not only deter you from staying in the market, because now you have realized this a massive amount of loss and you don't want that to happen again. No, you could also run out of capital and then you're out of the market anyways. So let's get to the first point again. How do we accumulate in the right way? How to accumulate the right way. The smart investor doesn't chase a pump. The smart investor accumulates long before the hype comes and before all the dumb money, as we call it, gets into the market of this coin. Maybe you've heard of dollar cost averaging, DCA. It's a very common strategy amongst even traditional financial investments, and it can be very much useful in crypto as well. If, again, we take the example of Solana, in 2021, Solana was already up in the mid 200s, 240 or something was its all-time high back then. It went all the way back down to almost $6. Let's imagine you would have bought on all these steps down there. You would have accumulated a massive amount of Solana. Sure, it would have been very, very tough to stay in that market for the 2 years of 2022 and 2023. But if you bought every single step down and, you know, with small amounts of money that are reasonable for you to lose at that point in time, and you would have just waited and waited, the coin has come back to its all-time high and even broke it. So you buying in at always lower rates would have put your entry level much, much lower than that. So you would again be up a lot of money. Just because you were patient, you did the right thing, you did what the smart money did, and most importantly, you waited. Same thing can be said for Ethereum. Well, Ethereum is Ethereum and it's the biggest shitcoin of all time. But, you know, we have to give it its credits as well. The same thing would have happened with that as well. And there's a bunch of coins with which it would have happened. Bitcoin as well. I mean, Bitcoin probably still is just the best thing to do that with. Just DCA into Bitcoin and grow your spot backs with that. Buy an altcoin here and there, you know, to diversify yourself a bit, to get maybe a glimpse of all these pumps with you, and you'll be fine, you'll be good. Another thing that is very important is seeing market sentiment. Normally when everyone on Twitter is telling you, oh my god, we are so back, everything is so done, we are so high, we will go to $1 billion, we are mooning, that's usually when you want to sell. Because when your taxi driver is telling you what stock he has, then you want to get out of the stock market. Well, if your McDonald's guy is telling you what meme coin he has, then it might be time to get out of the crypto markets, or at least de-risk. But the same thing goes the other way. If everyone on Twitter is dooming and oh my god, it's so over and we are never even getting back to 50k on Bitcoin ever again, we are going to zero, everything is over, that's the time when you want to buy. When there's blood in the streets, you want to buy. And when everyone is euphoric, you want to sell. Now, I'm not saying go against the market. Again, would be timing the market. But cleverly de-risk when people are very, very euphoric. And cleverly put on risk when people are fearful and fear that everything is over. Now, for the cash flow game. How do you make your crypto work for you? Well, it's very simple. Staking and yield farming. You want to hold your crypto and stake them. What does that bring you? Well, it brings you new cryptocurrencies. Obviously, you are now not paid in US dollars, so you don't have a stable revenue. But let's assume you buy your coins in a downtrending market. Yes, your coins lose in value, but you stake them, so you always make more and more coins. Now, markets can't go down forever, so at one point they will stabilize and then eventually go up again. So now all the coins that you've accumulated, they gain value as well. And you're still gaining more and more coins. And if you have a good protocol that allows you to, basically have a compound interest effect where the coins that you get from staking are immediately put back into your capital for staking, you now make significant amount of money just from your staking. There's also lending and borrowing crypto on DeFi. So you could lend other people your crypto. They will pay you back in more crypto because maybe they want to short, maybe they have any other plans. You don't really care what they're doing. The important thing is you will get your money back. So actually you should probably care what they do, but most protocols take care of that for you. This brings us to a theory which is very discussed, and I don't really want to take a stance on this because I think both have their justified reason to be around. Passive income versus active trading. In theory, the less you do, the more you make. But that being said, there are certainly people that can handle the high volatility of crypto markets and then can make a good amount of money out of this volatility. Trading works, but for the large proportion of humanity, trading is completely off the table because the amount of emotional control that you need to have in trading is something that most people cannot bring up. Most people can also not bring up the knowledge about technical analysis or like charts in general in the first place to trade correctly, and then they certainly cannot bring up the emotional control. So for this video, let's assume that passive income is the better option. So you just buy your coins, you stake them, you let them make you revenue, and you win over time. Now let's get to risk management. How do you stay in the game? Well, the number one rule, as we've talked about now in crypto, is the longer you stay in the game, the more you win. Diversification versus over-diversification. You want to diversify yourself in a couple of markets, right? You want to have Bitcoin, obviously. You always want Bitcoin in your portfolio. That's the rule. Bitcoin always has to be there. Then you want some alts, right? Like Ethereum, like Solana, maybe like Sui, some projects that you believe in. And then maybe you want to get into some layer 2s, layer 3s, be part a bit of the casino community, because if they are winning, you might as well win. But be cautious with these things. They should make up for the smallest amount of your portfolio because you know that they technically don't have any value and they probably will go to zero at one point, but you may be able to catch the pump. If everybody else is in it, you may as well just have it. Exit strategies are also very important. Greed will kill you in this market. You need to know when you want to exit the market. You need to know, I wouldn't put a number on it because that gets you too much into this dollar amount that you're chasing and it may lead you to a clouded judgment. But I would definitely look for certain things like overly euphoric Twitter posts or, well, the market, the charts showing you signs. Obviously, if you know a bit about technical analysis, you can find that too. But obviously, stick to market cycles maybe. We know that the markets in crypto move in 4-year terms because of Bitcoin halving. Got a video prepared on that as well for the future. And that may be good signs for you to leave the market, or at least, as mentioned before, to de-risk. What do you mean by de-risking? Well, you just sell some of your position. Some of it stays in, and if it goes higher, well, great. And if it goes lower, well, you took your profits at the highest point for you, or well, at the point where you said, well, this is getting dangerously high for me and I want to get out with a bit of risk. I have made this much profit, why risk my profit? The thing that you somehow will never get out of the equation is emotional discipline. Here we are not talking about the emotional discipline you will need in trading. that's just another level. But still, greed and fear will wipe you out of the market. And if you are the first one to panic sell just because Trump used the word tariffs again, well, I'm sorry, but then you're not cut out for these markets, not even spot investing. Or if you're buying just because BlackRock announced that they are buying another 10,000 Bitcoin, well, the move happened and you were probably already too late. So this over emotional attachment to all of these news events, they will kill you. Blend out the noise. It's not important. What's important is that the markets will always go up on the long term, right? That's for the S&P 500, that's for the MSCI World, that's for every market we know, stocks, bonds, gold. Everything so far has moved steadily up forever. You know, taking profits is what separates those who actually make it to those who round trip their gains back to zero all the time. Every cycle, you know, every cycle you have the people that leave their job because now, well, they are millionaires, right, in crypto. Well, most of them are paper millionaires and have positions open that are in profit well in the millions, yeah. But because they are not able to take profits, because they become so greedy and like, oh, well, but I could make 5 million, I could make 10 million. They just round trip it all back to zero and lose even more in the process. And then they have to fill out the application form for McDonald's again. Don't be that guy. Be the guy that knows when to take profits and that knows when to take on risk. Finally, crypto isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It is the way to build wealth from the future. Most people still today are very, very early. And I know videos like these and your x.com feed, you know, it may feel like everyone is in crypto. But if we look at it, only like 0.6% of the population, and that is if we assume that every active Bitcoin wallet belongs to a different person, which is highly unlikely, but let's just do it for the calculation here. And there's only 0.6% of the population that are connected to the Bitcoin network. Now, there is something very interesting, a law called Metcalfe's law. Now, what does this law say? Well, the value of a network grows proportionally to the square of its connected users. To put that in perspective, to get the value, so the price of an asset that is a network, you will look at the amount of users of the network that are connected, and if now this grows by a certain percentage, you square that percentage, and that should be the growth of the value of the network. So there's still room for exponential growth on all these crypto networks. So why would you want to lose your money now by just trying to time the market when in the future there's exponential growth? Invest smartly and you will be amongst the winners. 100% guaranteed. We're also in this cycle in a very specific one. A lot of black swan events, a lot of adoption events, but also a lot of crashes. It's a lot of volatility has come with all this mainstream attention. And every cycle so far has been volatile. But we've seen this one as one of the most, if not the most volatile that there ever was. If you survive this cycle, you are going to win and you're here for the long run, period. If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of 99% of the crypto space. Crypto is mostly about understanding money, understanding wealth, understanding markets. And if you can do that, you will get rich in this industry. So always stay learning. Watch out for the next drops. They will include so much more information for you. And if you've liked the video, don't hesitate on leaving a like and write me a comment. What do you want to see next? Do you want to see anything about a specific coin maybe? Till then, see you around. GM.
Penthouse, skyline view, shorty in the bed, yeah, big tis too. Crypto king, I don't miss. Money too long, got the world on my wrist. Solana up, Bitcoin lit, Lambo so clean, and the doors do this.